and this disease are everywhere in the world where the Aedes mosquitoes are found in those areas. This disease was first introduced around 2004, and from 2004, since we are in very much close proximity with India, which is this disease is very much prevalent in India, including PBR or even in Delhi side. Okay, and we are in close proximity with India. This disease was much more prevalent in Tarai, in Nepal, but in the recent days, this disease is prevalent even in the mountainous district of Nepal. Okay, and last year I think you might have heard about the outbreak of dengue even in Kathmandu. Okay, in last year, but this year we did not found that much cases of dengue. This could be due to the lack of transportation, mobility of the people. Okay, due to this COVID pandemic situation, due to this, the transmission chain got blocked. That's why the disease was not seen in this year in for this dengue. Okay, so now what is this? Okay, so this is the disease that appear in fatal conditions. Okay, and this infection is caused by the virus and is spread by the vector, that is the mosquito, that is the Aedes mosquito. Okay, and this dengue virus are the RNA virus, comes under the family flaviviruses, and they comes under the arbovirus group because they are transmitted by the mosquito, which is the arthropod 1. And these dengue virus have 4 serotypes. This is very much important because I'll discuss. This have 4 serotypes. This is very important. Okay? Dengue 1, 2, 3, 4. And see here, the infection with one strains or one serotype of the virus gives immunity to that serotype only. Means once you have the infection with the dengue virus, let's say serotype 1, you may remain protective to your whole life against to dengue virus serotype 1 only, not to 2, 3 and 4, or not to other serotypes. Okay, this one is important. But if you have reinfection with the other serotypes, then the chances of having severe condition is very high. Okay, that I will discuss in pathogenicity part. As I have already mentioned, this is the mosquito borne, and which type of mosquito? That is the Aedes aegypti. Okay, it is also called as tiger mosquito because these have the black and white stripes all over the body, and they are smaller than the Culex and Anopheles mosquito. Okay, and these mosquito prefers to feed on humans, and they basically reside or they breed on the stagnant water or the stored water, and they have the very short flight range. They cannot flight in the long range, and they may bite several people in the same household. Okay, so see, these mosquito can breed basically in the stagnant water, stored water, that can be present in the even in the floor or in bucket. Okay, even in the urbanized area, the pit, the piece road, with some small pitted or this tire. Okay, and in those this water got stored or stagnant during the rainy season, and in that they Aedes aegypti breed in that site, and from there will be the spread of mosquito. Okay, so see here, the egg of these Aedes mosquito may survive for years. This is very important. Okay, and once these egg come in contact with the water, let's say in the stagnant water, they develop into the larva and then to pupa and then to adult mosquito. Okay, this is the life cycle of this mosquito, that is the Aedes mosquito. The very much important point is that why these mosquitoes are more common in the rainy season. Okay, because these egg may remains viable for years. Okay, even in the dry condition. Okay, but they further develops when it becomes or when they come in contact with the water or the moisture. Okay, so that's why they develops into the larva and then the pupae and then adult. Okay, and in dengue, another very much important point is that there is the trans-ovarian transmission of the dengue virus in the mosquito. This is very much important. Means if this adult is infected with the or have acquired dengue virus, then it may be these viruses will be transmitted to their progeny also. Okay, so that's why there is a rapid spread of dengue virus among the mosquito community. Okay, and if these mosquito bite us, then we acquire infection. Okay, that is the life cycle. So now history. It was first reported in 17th-18th century in Asia, Africa, and North America. It is considered as a mild, non-fatal disease. Why? Because in primary infection by the any serotype, okay, almost 90 to 99% of the individuals have non-specific, asymptomatic to non-specific febrile conditions, okay, or non-febrile conditions. Means it is a mild one, right? But in the same individuals who have acquired infection by certain serotypes, again got infection with another serotype, then the infection lead to the severe conditions. Okay, that we'll discuss in the pathogenicity part. Means it was considered as a mild, non-fatal diseases, but if the several serotypes infect the human individuals, then the chances of having severe conditions is very high. Okay, so see here, the epidemics with multiple serotypes and emergence of dengue hemorrhagic fever means transmission or the spread of several serotypes of this dengue across the globe. Okay, results the infection by the multiple serotypes of the dengue virus to the humans. That results the more severe conditions, that is called as dengue hemorrhagic fever. Right? Got it? Means any conditions that results the transmission or the spread of multiple serotypes of the dengue virus in certain area may result the clinical conditions which may lead to the severe conditions, that is called as dengue hemorrhagic fever, and which can be life-threatening if not managed. Okay, that I will discuss later on. In 1980s, a second re-expansion of dengue hemorrhagic fever in Asia with epidemics in India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Thailand. That means these Southeast Asian areas or the countries, the dengue hemorrhagic fever was there, and it was re-emerged again, and this is continued till now. Okay, and dengue is basically the disease of urbanized area. Okay, why urbanized area? Because the vector, that is the Aedes mosquito, like to be there in the clear and stagnant water. Okay, clear fresh, clear and stagnant water. Clear, okay, means in urbanized area there is the maximum chances of storing the water, okay, for example in reserving tank, in tire, okay, some pit in the pitch roads. In those areas the water got stored during the rainy seasons, and there is a rapid spread or rapid production of the Aedes mosquitoes in the urbanized area, and these Aedes mosquitoes are the vector of the dengue. Okay, so that's why this dengue infection is primarily the disease of urbanized area. Okay, so see, these are the areas which got FC here, including India, Nepal, Sri Lanka. Okay, these are the affected areas by the dengue. Okay, where Aedes aegypti are commonly found. Okay, reasons for re-emergence of this dengue. Very simple. There is the uncontrolled urbanization and the population growth, substandard housing, inadequate water, sewer and waste management, deterioration of public health infrastructure, faster travel means globalization. Okay, mobility of the people that results the spread of mosquito, or that results the spread of different serotypes of the dengue virus. Okay. This is the reason why this year we did not found the dengue case. Okay, due to the corona pandemics, the people got stuck in those local area. That's why the movement or the transportation was almost zero, isn't it? So due to this, there is the less mobility of the people, less chances of the spread of mosquito from one area to another area. So that's why there was the less chances of spreading of different serotypes of the dengue virus. That's why the people did not have any kind of dengue diseases in this year. Okay, so this one is very important. Okay, ineffective mosquito control and the prevalence of multiple serotypes. See here, this one is very much important. In particular area, if there is the multiple serotypes of the dengue virus prevalence, then the chances of having the severe dengue hemorrhagic fever conditions is high. Okay. In India, these are the certain outbreaks or the cases found. See here, the most important one is this one. In Delhi or in Lucknow, the cases was more in 2003 and in 2006. Okay, and during that time, dengue was detected in Nepal also, basically in the Tarai region, Baake, okay, Baake and Chittagong. These are the more commonly affected area. But 2 years back, this disease has emerged as an outbreak in Dharan and the Eastern Tarai territory of our country, and even in the Kathmandu we had the several outbreaks. Okay, see, these are the affected areas. Okay, I will skip this. Okay, dengue in Nepal. See here, the first cases was seen in 2004 in Baake. Okay, and in 2006 more cases confirmed. Okay, and in this way the case started increasing in each year, and 2 years back, means 1 year back, before the COVID pandemic conditions, the dengue was very common even in the Kathmandu. Okay, as I discussed earlier. The most important why we are having the dengue outbreak, due to this. See here, because in Nepal we have all these serotypes. Means if these multiple serotypes are there in our country, then the chances of getting the more severe condition is high. Okay, why it happens I will discuss. Okay, so see, these are the some data that we have in different territories. We had cases of dengue which is increasing in each year. See here, in 2017 it was more, in 18 little bit, but in 19 and in 20 it was decreased. Okay, So now let us discuss what is dengue virus. It is a small single stranded RNA virus which have the 4 serotypes, as I have already discussed, and it comes under the flavivirus. It is a spherical enveloped virus that contains a single stranded positive sense RNA genome, okay, single stranded positive sense RNA genome, and that encodes 3 structural proteins. One is the capsid protein, membrane protein, and the envelope protein. Okay, these 3 proteins are these are the structural proteins which are very much important in pathogenicity as well as the antigenicity. Okay, and they have the 7 non-structural proteins or the regulatory proteins known, that is NS1, NS2A, NS2B, NS3, NS4A, NS4B, and NS5. So these structural and the non-structural or the regulatory proteins have the several roles in pathogenesis as well as the antigenicity. Okay, E protein, see here, E protein has an important role in the development of antibodies, means they are immunogenic. E proteins or the envelope proteins are immunogenic, against whom our immune system will produce antibody, means the protective immune response will be there against this E protein. Okay, and NS1 protein appears in association with the infected cell on its surface and can be detected in the early stage of infection, means this one is important from diagnostic point of view. These proteins, NS1 antigen or the protein, can be detected early, okay, in the patient's serum, means if the patient is having infection and the virus is actively multiplying, then we can detect this NS1 protein in the sample or in the serum sample of the patient, means these have the diagnostic significance. Okay, now what happens? Clinical features. Incubation period, it may vary 2 to 7 days. The patient will have the fever above 40-41 degrees centigrade. Sometimes they have the non-specific symptoms. They have a severe muscle ache, retroorbital pain, hepatomegaly, rash, facial flush. Okay, fever subsides in 2 to 7 days. And it may be biphasic. All right. Okay. So see, when we discuss regarding the clinical features, we describe the conditions into 3 phases. One is the febrile phase, critical phase, and the recovery phase. In the febrile phase, the patient will have the fever, headache, retroorbital pain, myalgia, arthalgia, poor appetite, nausea, vomiting. Okay, these kind of features the patient will have. Okay, in the second phase, there will be the excessive plasma leakage that may lead to the shock, and due to the decrease in the platelet count, the patient will have the bleeding, that is the internal bleeding. That's why the patient have the petechia, purpura, bruises, okay, all over the body. That is the hemorrhage, due to the hemorrhage, and due to the massive hemorrhage and the aggregations, there will be the multi-organ failure or the organ impairment if we do not manage it. Okay, and the patient develops acidosis, hypocalcemia, hypoglycemia, and due to this the patient will die. Okay, recovery phase, and finally if the patient managed, okay, proper, patient will get recovered after 3 to 5 days. Okay, so here in febrile phase, in critical phase, and the recovery phase, okay, there is certain laboratory changes which is very much important. See, the platelet count start decrease, okay, rapidly decrease platelet count. There is not so much significant changes in WBC count. However, WBC count can be decreased in the critical phase. Okay, that is the patient will have the leukopenia. Okay, and due to the plasma leakage, see, this one is very much important. Okay, due to the plasma leakage, the packed cell volume will increase. Okay, that is, there will be the increased hematocrit. Okay, so these are certain laboratory changes that we see. And when we talk about the viral load and the immune response, in the early stages there will be viremia, and in these stages we can detect NS1, that is the non-structural protein 1 from the patient's serum, or even we can detect the dengue virus specific genome in these early stages. But in the later stages, after 6 to 7 days, these antibodies start to produced, and we can detect IgM and IgG both. Okay, here the IgM is the earliest one. Okay, we'll detect IgM. If we could detect NS1 protein and the IgM, then we can say the patient is having recent infection or the acute infection, or in the past infection we can detect only IgG. Okay, so this is the natural course of the dengue illness. Differential diagnosis. These are the differential diagnosis that we may confused. In this condition also we will have similar kind of features. In measles, the patient will have the fever and the rashes all over the body. In dengue, due to the decreased platelet count, the patient will have the petechia, may have the petechia or internal bleeding, so that the patient will have the rashes in the body. That's why we may get confused. Okay, these are the features which are the differential diagnosis. Okay, this is the WHO case definition for the dengue fever. The patient would have at least acute febrile illness with 2 or more than 2 of these features. Okay, number 1 is the patient should have the fever with any 2. Okay, headache or the retroorbital pain or myalgia or arthralgia or rash. Okay, and this is the definition where we suspect it as the dengue fever. Okay, another is the dengue hemorrhagic fever. This one is very much important. As I have already mentioned you that once you have the dengue viral infection by serotype 1, you got immune against that serotype 1. Okay, in this primary infection you may not have symptoms, you may be asymptomatic, but if you have infection second times with another serotypes, okay, then it may lead to more severe condition that is called as antibody mediated enhancement. Okay, so there will be the antibody mediated enhancement so that the disease or the infection progress to the severe conditions. That is the main reasons why the clinical features progress to more severe conditions in dengue virus if there is the infection with the different serotypes or the multiple serotypes at different types. Okay, right? So this is due to the heterotypic antibodies which are non-protective and fail to neutralize the viruses. Okay, so that means the antibody produced against the different serotypes cannot protect with another serotypes. Instead, they will again reactivate or activate or enhances. Okay, for the resulting the severe clinical conditions. Okay, so there will be the excessive activation of the CD4, that is T helper cell, and the cytotoxic T cells that release the excessive cytokines that activates the complement pathway, and that results the depression of the complement 3 and complement 5. Okay, and that may result to the different clinical conditions. Okay, so if there is the homologous antibody forms, then it will be protective, or this antibody got have the protective role. Okay, this is okay. But here, if they are heterologous, means the antibody produced by the different serotypes, they will not got neutralized. Okay, they cannot neutralize, but instead they will enhance. Okay, for resulting the severe hemorrhagic conditions. Okay, so that means they will not protective. Okay, right? This is the main point. And this antibody, which were not protective one, it enhances for the excessive production of the cytokines. Okay, so here what they have, these antibody which are the non-protective one, if got encountered with the virus with another serotype, instead of protecting, they activate the active replication of the viruses. Means if more viral replication is there, then more severe conditions will occur. By rule, the antibody should protect, isn't it? But here, if these antibody are the heterotype, or these antibody are formed against the another serotypes, then this antibody cannot protect. Instead, they binds with this new viral strain and enhance in their rapid multiplication. If more number of virus got produced, then what happens? more tissue damage will be there, isn't it? That's why the patient leads to the more severe condition. Got it? Okay, I'll again explain you. If the antigens or antibody are same, means if the antibody are produced by certain serotype, the antibody produced is protective for that serotype only. This figure explains like that. Here in this case, if the antibodies are produced by another serotype, okay, then it will not protect to other or new serotype. Okay, that is the heterologous. It will not be protective. But instead, what happens if they are heterologous? Then they will not protect, but this antibody binds to this newer strain and activate their rapid multiplication. Okay, so that's why more virus will be produced that results to the more severe clinical conditions. Okay, so what happens in this case? In the severe condition, what happens? There will be the active activations of the complement, so that there will be the active production of the complement byproduct that increase the vascular permeability. Okay, that is the vascular leakage will be there. Due to the vascular leakage, there will be the hemoconcentration. Okay, and the patient may lead to shock. Okay, and there will be the aggregation of the platelet. That's why the patient will have the thrombocytopenia, that the decrease in the platelet count. There will be vascular changes, and the patient will have the DIC, okay, disseminated intravascular coagulation, or patient will have the coagulopathy. Okay, and finally the patient will results as a shock and finally die. Okay, this is the pathophysiology. So these are the WHO criteria for the diagnosis. The patient will have a fever and a hemorrhagic tendency, that is a positive tourniquet test, petechiae, ecchymosis, purpura. Here means due to the decreased platelet count, the patient will have the petechiae or the ecchymosis or the purpura. Okay, there will be the bleeding. Okay, platelet count decrease less than 1 lakh per cubic mm, and there is the evidence of the plasma leakage, means rise in hematocrit. Okay, at the plasma leakage. Due to the platelet count decrease, there will be the rashes, okay, purpura in the skin, right? And that is the dengue septic shock. That is all of the above with evidence of circulatory failure. Well, why there will be the circulatory failure? Because Paxil will be high. Okay, that is, there will be the hemoconcentration. That's why there will not be the proper circulation. Okay, that's why there can be the circulatory failure. Okay, rapid weak pulse. Okay, narrow pulse pressure, decreased, cold, clammy skin, restlessness. Okay, these are the features, right? And grading of dengue viral infection, that is a dengue fever, means patient will have only fever. The patient might have leukopenia, sometimes thrombocytopenia. Dengue hemorrhagic fever, that is the grade 1. Here the patient will have this feature with positive tourniquet test, means platelet starts to decrease and hematocrit starts to increase. Okay, dengue hemorrhagic fever grade 2 means all these features with the sign of bleeding. Okay, internal bleeding, lateral features same, platelet count decrease, hematocrit. Another is dengue hemorrhagic fever grade 3, that is the circulatory failure on and off. Okay, with these features. And finally the shock, dengue septic shock, that is a profound shock with undetectable pressure and the pulse. Okay, so there will be the circulatory failure, complete circulatory failure. That's why pressure and the pulse remains undetected, and finally the patient will die. Okay, this is the grading. Now, immune response to dengue infection, as I have already mentioned you, in primary infection, this IgM antibody in late acute convalescent stage will form. Later IgG will form and it lasts for several decades, and this antibody is protective for the same serotype, not to other. Okay, and in secondary infection, the high immunoglobulin level and less rise in the antibody. You must remember this antibody is protective for same serotype but not to others. Okay, if other serotype got encountered in our body, then there is a maximum chances of having, that is grade 4 or the dengue hemorrhagic fever condition. Okay, this one is very much important to understand. So now, how do you diagnose? That is we detect the virus. Okay, and detection of viral specific nucleic acid. Detection of virus means electron microscopy. Culture, we can do cell culture also, but this is not routinely done. Detection of viral nucleic acid, this is done routinely. Why? Because this nucleic acid, that is the RNA genome of the dengue virus, can be detected by PCR, polymerase chain reaction. And more commonly in our setup, these two methods, that is the detection of antigen and antibody in the patient serum, is more commonly employed because rapid kit based on the immunochromatography principle are available nowadays in our setup. Okay, however, combination of these techniques help us for the proper diagnosis. Okay, see here, no single diagnostic test is available to detect dengue infection across all phases of illness, thereby requiring careful selection of the dengue diagnostics tools. Okay, during the early stage of disease, virus isolation or nucleic acid or antigen detection can be used to diagnose the infection, and at the in phase we will detect the antibody. Okay, in our setup, virus detection and nucleic acid detection is not much more practical. Okay, because we are not doing the culture and we are not detecting the viral specific RNA genome routinely. Okay, by PCR. These are not much more common, but these two methods, based on the principle of antigen antibody reaction, the antigen or the antibody of these dengue virus can be detected in the patient serum. In early stage, we will detect antigen, and in the later stage of the disease, we can detect antibody. And these antigen and antibody can be detected based on the principle of antigen antibody reactions, and rapid kit are available to detect these antigen and antibody from the patient serum. Okay, that is the diagnosis, right? Okay, so see, these are the dengue diagnostic tools when we choose these methods. Okay, see here, early stages, virus isolation, antigen detection. These are important, but in our setup, we will do this one, antigen detection, because these rapid tests are available which will detect these non-structural one protein antigen of the viruses, and we can have the result within 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, we can do ELISA also based on the principle of antigen antibody reaction, but it is time consuming and it is little bit tedious procedure. In our setup, this method is much more common. Okay, and in indirect means in recovery phases, we can use antibody or we can detect antibody by ELISA, or even these rapid tests are available by which we can detect IgM and IgG, and this will help us to know whether the patient is having recent infection or the past infection. If we are getting IgM, then we can say the patient is having recent infection. Okay, or if we are detecting the antibody after 5 to 7 days of interval, and if the antibody titer is increasing, then we can say the patient is having recent infection. Okay, in this way we can diagnose the case. This is the diagnostic phase. Okay, see here, initially we will detect viral specific genome or viral specific protein. In later stages we will detect the antibody, right? Okay, so this is the lab diagnosis part, as I have already discussed. Okay, and this is the WHO criteria for the dengue infection, probable case and the confirmed case, how we detect. Okay, and management, there is no any specific management. Some supportive managements are there. Supportive management are there because there is no treatment of the virus. So you will manage the platelet count, you will manage the fever, you will manage the myalgia. Okay, you will manage the possible hemoconcentration, and that means symptomatic management. Okay, if you are able to do the symptomatic management of the patient, then the patient can be saved. Otherwise, there is no treatment. Okay, That is the management part. Okay, so that means you will manage the symptoms. Okay, if the hematocrit is rising, then you will have the IV fluids. You will give the IV fluids. Okay, so that hemo concentration will get diluted and the blood can be circulated. Right. This is the management part. Right. So this is the management and all those things. And now prevention. See. Prevention, that is the vaccine. Dengue vaccines are available as the Dengvax, which is approved by the US FDA in 2019, I think. But the demerit of this vaccine is that this vaccine can be given only to the individuals which have the confirmed case of previous infection with the dengue virus. Okay, in those patient individual only, to avoid the possible emergence of the severe dengue hemorrhagic conditions, the vaccine can be given. Otherwise we will not have any vaccine. Okay, so that's why mosquito control awareness to the people is the best method till now. Okay, the vaccines are available but cannot be used in all individuals. Okay, that is the Dengvax is available, which was, I think, was started from 2017, but in 2019 it got approval by the US FDA. Okay, you can have Google search also regarding the dengue vaccine. Okay, and now in the preventive measures, dengue vaccines and the mosquito control and awareness. Okay, these are the preventive measures of the vaccination. Okay, this much for the dengue. If you have any question, then we can discuss. Otherwise, we will end our class. Do you have any question?